So I will just get into the nitty-gritty of my life. Um, so let's see. My sobriety date is January 15th, 2018. That makes me almost 6 years sober. 5 years felt like a pretty I don't know, it was just like a solid milestone. And I think too, my disease was really rampant for like a solid 4 years. So I almost feel like I've had as much or more time in sobriety than I did in my alcoholism and addiction. So it's significant. Like I have more memories in sobriety than I did, before. And that's really cool because each day that we stay clean and sober, we get to add like a new memory that we remember. We don't like, we get to keep things that we have now, like clothes that I got in January of 2018. Like I probably still have because I didn't switch homes or live out of cars or like other weird things that we do. Um, I always like to say, like, I really feel like in sobriety, the things that I get, I earn or I work for, and therefore they're mine. I don't have to worry about giving them away or having them lost because I did the work for them. I didn't manipulate to get them. The program has definitely given me a foundation of spiritual principles that I live by, which include honesty and putting my higher power's will before mine. Um, which means being patient, which is still a struggle at times. But anyway, so, I don't want to spend too much time because I know I've got about 15 minutes. And I mean, I feel like our stories of what it was like is always got like the same general theme. So for me, I I didn't really have any trauma growing up, and that actually kept me sick for quite some time because I thought that kind of disqualified me. I seemed to only listen to people talk about how many things happened in their lives, and that's why they're this way. And that's it's typical of us to count ourselves out and like find the differences in the beginning instead of looking at the similarities, right? So I was always looking at like, well, I don't qualify in that way, so I probably am not really an alcoholic. I probably just like drink too much or whatever the case may be. Um, but unfortunately for me, so I was hard headed in that way. I didn't have a reason that I was an alcoholic, and I wanted one. And it's crazy. Like I really don't know. The only reason that I do know now is that I get to help others just like me. And that is way enough reason right now. But it took a while to get to that point. Um, because of course, why me? And now it's like, why not me? Like, yay me, because now I can help you. Like there's people that I am uniquely positioned to help because of my experiences. And it really is a blessing. I understand why people say they're grateful alcoholics, like same, you know. Um, Listening to the intro here, it's cool because you guys are like not from Louisiana, so you don't have your accent's a little bit different, right? And I just love it because it's like, holy cow, like how it works, the promises, the traditions, the steps, like just hearing it, it's almost like religious. Like it's almost like it's comforting and hearing it in another dialect, if you will. It's like, oh, it just reminds me of what a bigger whole I'm a part of. And it's just incredible. And it's like you guys are my people just because you're here, and like that's all I need to know. The rest, like I'm already comfortable. We're already friends and family. Um, and that's one thing I did not have prior to recovery. I always felt different from, I always felt like I was in the in crowd, I suppose, but I always felt like I was pretending, right? Like I was putting on a show for whoever I was with. I was quite the chameleon. Whatever you needed me to be at any time, like that's what I was. Um, and never really getting to know who my true self was. And like that was exhausting. Took a lot of energy and effort. Um, and I think when I found alcohol in so many forms, um, it was like, oh, well, that helps. Like I don't have to work as hard. It's easy to just, not care, or to, yeah, I guess that's it, to not care, to not overanalyze, overthink, and wonder if I'm measuring up or this, that, the other, all these other things that our spiritual dis-ease tells us, right? And so alcohol in its many forms fixed it until it didn't, until I couldn't stop, and consequences kept happening. Lots of consequences, lots of just, you know, messy, bad decisions, and getting to the point where my morals and my just all of it out the window. Um, and I had just opened my book because y'all mentioned a topic, and it talks about this is page 152. So it says, um, he cannot picture life without alcohol. Someday he will be unable to imagine life either with alcohol or without it. Then he will know loneliness such as few do. He will be at the jumping off place. He will wish for the end. And thankfully I did get to that point. I specifically remember I was living at my dad's house. I had already been to treatment twice. And I was crying to my father. I was like 26 years old. And I was like, I don't want to be alive if I have to be sober. Like, I don't. Like, I don't know how to do life sober. And if I have to do it that way, then I don't want to do it. But I also was too scared to die. So the jumping off point, like, where does that leave me? Like, this isn't working, but I don't know how to not do that. Um, So my dad kind of gave me an ultimatum, an ultimatum. No one likes old tomatoes. And he was like, so you either go to treatment again for the third time, or you just leave and I'll keep your car and you just be, on your own. And I think I was too prideful to be without a vehicle and like on the streets. I couldn't do that. So fortunately, my higher power sometimes uses my character defects like to help me. So that's kind of what happened. I was like, oh, well, I can't, live on the street. So yeah, whatever. I'll go to treatment again. Fine. So I went, and I'm going to kind of like jump forward to my solution here. So I always did a good job of making myself feel better by um, sort of feeding off of other people's energy, and just it really was that, like, feeding off of it, like, I'm not really worried about what I was giving back, just kind of sucking them dry for my own benefit. And the rest of the rehab community got to go to an outside meeting, but I had not been there long enough, so I didn't get to go yet, and I was the only one that had to stay behind. And then I was stuck with myself and my thoughts and my heart and my feelings. And up until that point, I had been just kind of angry that I was there, just kind of not acknowledging like the truth of my situation at that point. And then everyone left, and I found myself in my room. And I hit my knees. That's something I had learned from a sponsor. One of the other many times I was trying to get sober, and she said, when you don't know what to do, you just hit your knees and you just get down there and wait for something. And I did. And when I got on my knees in that treatment center, it was like something broke. I don't know, something broke. And I just cried like a baby, like just hopeless and full of shame and fear and uncertainty and worthlessness. And I just was like, God, I don't know why I'm back here. Like, I can't do this. You've obviously seen I've been trying. I can't do it. I don't even know. And I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry. I can't. And it was like my higher power spoke directly to me and said, well, um, you don't have to do this. Or no, you can't do this, but I can if you'll let me. Um, and at first it was kind of like, oh, like you'll still have me. Like I'm not, discarded. I thought like I kind of lost my good graces, but the higher power that I serve, it doesn't work like that. Nothing's ever earned. So then therefore it cannot be unearned. It was just kind of waiting there for me if I received, right? And so I did. I was like, I could breathe. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. And I just I got some hope. And I just took a step and a step, like one in front of the other, and I started following suggestions. I just did whatever the people around me suggested that I do. And I say suggested because if I felt like they were telling me what to do, I didn't like that. Like it had to be a suggestion. So, and I really focused on honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. That was the three that the book said was indispensable. And so I was like, okay, these three things. I got to do these three things. And I did. And, sometimes I would tell my sponsor about a decision I wanted to make. And she'd say that, well, in her experience, she doesn't think that's probably the best decision. So I was honest. I was open-minded. I listened. And I was willing, to hear her out. But I'd sometimes just say, well, thank you, but I'm still going to go ahead and do that. Um, so I was a hard-headed, newly recovered or recovering person. And sometimes I took the probably longer path to things, but I stayed sober. I didn't drink. I didn't use none of it. I just I stayed honest, open-minded, and willing. I had a sponsor. I was working the steps. I had a home group. Um, and so um fast forward, uh so that was it. That was the last time. Third time I don't know, that was my spiritual experience. And then I'd say my spiritual awakening. So I got pregnant 2 months into sobriety. And I was ecstatic, even though I was like in sober living and like had like a crappy car and didn't even have much, but I was so pumped. I always wanted to be a mom. And I was just I was gonna make it work. Like it was great. It was a blessing. And it still is, right. And but it did take some work. So um my child's father, who's now my husband, at first being newly sober and pregnant, I sort of accidentally, inadvertently, unknowingly made my husband my higher power. And I only found that out whenever he relapsed, um, shortly before my son was born. And it was like I snapped out of it. Like I was like, holy crap, like, no, this man is not my higher power. This man did not get me sober. This man will not keep me sober. My higher power is my higher power. And like, I need to get it together. So I did some work. He did some work. So we have a successful, he's got about a year shy of me, and it'll always be that way. He never gets to catch up. And I just love that little part. But we both had some serious work to do. We learned how to be two people in recovery who recover on their own, but like do life together. So he's got his program and his fellowship and what he does, and I've got mine. And sometimes they intertwine. But there's certain things we don't do. Like I don't talk to him about his sponsor or his book study, or like that's his business. And then I have mine. And it's been great because I've been able to kind of help other newcomers, because it's always advised not to do relationships in early recovery, but we don't always take those suggestions. And so I can just speak from experience to a lot of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. Um, so that's been a journey. I ended up going back to school and getting my bachelor's in psychology. I graduate in December with my master's in mental health counseling. And then I'm going on to get my doctorate because why not? Um, and my whole existence now is trying to help people just like me. Like I get it on on a level. And that's why I said in the beginning, why me? Why is this happening to me? Like now I don't even care. I'm thankful. Like, thank you for this purpose. Cause like, holy cow, what an amazing experience it is when you're on the other side and you see another woman come in broken, hopeless, just no sense of self, no sense of self-worth. And then you work with them and you watch them like blossom into this just like their own little person. And it's incredible. Um, and then YPAW. So at 5 years sober, I discovered YPAW. And I am quirky, like loud, obnoxious, inappropriate individual just by nature. And so when I found YPAW, I was like, oh, like they do that here on purpose. And like it's like cheered for. I'm like, this, I like this. I would like to do more of this. So I joined a bid committee, kind of by like just happenstance. And we ended up we're going to be hosting LASCYPAA, so Louisiana State Conference for Young People in AA, in our hometown of Lafayette in 2024. And I'm the programs chair for this committee. We freaking love each other, and we like cut up. We have a good time. We grow together. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes we have to make amends to each other because life and because humanity. But it's so special, and I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to be a part of all of it. I'm comfortable with myself in a way that I've never been, and I can just like let my freak flag fly and not care what anyone thinks about it. And I found my people, you know. So that is a really like nutshell version of my story. Um, I think as far as a topic for the last 30 minutes of the meeting, um, I want to talk about um so that next paragraph, that same page 152. So he says he's talking about liquor and he's like, have you a sufficient substitute? Like obviously I can't live without that. Like, and if I have to, then what else? Yes, there is a substitute, and it is vastly more than that. It is a fellowship in Alcoholics Anonymous. There you will find release from care, boredom, and worry. Your imagination will be fired. Fired. Life will mean something at last. The most satisfactory years of your existence lie ahead. Thus, we find the fellowship, and so will you. Um, Yeah, man, that's powerful things. So I think that little paragraph and kind of maybe if you have experience on finding your people in the rooms or finding yourself in the rooms, or maybe you haven't done that yet, but you want to talk about that, like something along those lines. I really appreciate you guys letting me share with you.